All right, so continuing on with section 9.3, we're just going to do two additional concepts with, so remember this is solving quadratics with square roots or radicals. And so one of the concepts we are definitely going to use in, I think it's section 5. Okay, so it'll look like this. And so the idea is like we want to solve for x, right? We want x equals like something. So when you have a parentheses like this and something squared, it's just as if it was x squared, not the x minus 1 squared. So you're allowed to, remember, if I got rid of the square and I just had x minus 1, like that would be a lot simpler. So you're allowed to do the square root of that whole thing. And squaring a square root, it cancels each other out. So you're just left with x minus 1, which is a great thing to kind of have happen. And then square root of 25, remember, is positive and negative 5. So we're going to do x minus 1 equals 5, and we're going to do x minus 1 equals negative 5. Because remember, with x squared, or something that's squared, that means there are two answers. So we have to kind of do our positive side and negative side, and a lot of the times the answers do end up to be a positive number and a negative number, but depending on the numbers in the problem, you could end up with both negative or both positive. Okay, so square root undoes something that's being squared, and you're just kind of left with it, which again, that's kind of a big help. So a couple that maybe aren't as simple. So let's say if we had 4 equals 9. So I can't do the square root yet because that 4 is in the front. So I need to divide the 4. And so I get x minus 3 squared equals 9 over 4. So now I'm able to do the square root, and this one is going to be a little more challenging because we have a fraction. So it's still positive and negative. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 4 is 2. So remember, you can do the top and the bottom separate. So I don't know if it helps or not, but it might help some of you. 3 over 2 is really 1.5. And then x minus 3 equals negative 1.5. So if I did add 3, remember it's like 3.0, I get 4.5. And then over here, this one's a little bit different, or a little bit more difficult, because it's a positive and a negative. So I talked about it before, positive is like having money and negative is like owing money. So, on this first one, if I had $1.50 and then I had $3, I end up with $4.50 or 4.5. On this one, it's like I owe 1.5 or I owe $1.50, but then I get $3. So if I get $3 and I owe $1.50, then after I pay back what I owe, I have $1.50. So I'm fine with you leaving the answers in decimals. The book might have it be a fraction. So the book might show it like 4.5 is like 9 over 2, and 1.5 is 3 over 2. Okay, but I'm fine with the decimals. So I think kind of dealing with that stuff as like money usually is an easier problem. Okay, so you'll have 6 problems to do like that. 2 of them are like this last one. Okay, let me show one. If there's a number in the front but it's on the outside, you have to divide by that first, and that'll be the one that ends up being a fraction. Okay, so you've got 2 of those. The other 4 will work out a little bit nicer. Kind of. So maybe a difference that okay, so the different, there's a 2, but it's on the inside of this parentheses. So on this one, I can just start by doing the square root, and I get positive or negative 7. So just the equation, really the only difference, the equation is more than just x plus or x minus. So it will take a little bit longer to solve, just because you've got an additional step, but 7 minus 1 is 6. Then divide by 2, x equals 3. Negative 7 and negative 1 is negative 8. Divide by 2, and x is negative 4. Okay, so if there's a number in front of the x, but on the inside of the parentheses, you can just do the square root. Okay? All right, then we're going to kind of go back to what we were doing yesterday. Excuse me. Where we're solving, but the difference today will be we're not going to get a square root at the end. So if I do plus 13, and then divide by 4, okay, and then when I do the square root, can't do the square root of 7, and the square root of 7 does not reduce, so it would just be x equals square root of 7. Okay, let me see how and the book does want you to write them as a decimal. I'm trying to think if I want to do that or not. Yeah, let's do both. I want the square root of 7 is obviously good, plus or minus, but then I want you to do it use a calculator, of course. Square root of 7. So you'd get 2.65 or negative 2.65. So put both. Okay, so there's not, a ton of negative whatever x. Okay, this one is a little different, but it's because of the parentheses with the squared. Okay, but the ones, there's like this, there's no x part, there's no b part. So this method can be used if there is no b part. Okay, and so we'll start, oops, sorry about that. Differences that I could come up with. Here's one that's kind of, okay, so if I did minus 6, kind of sloppy, 6, and then divide by 4. Okay, and then since I just have x squared, okay, so I kind of look at it like, well, I can do the square root of 6, or I can't do the square root of 6, sorry. And I shouldn't have put square root right there, but I can do the square root of 4. So again, it's positive and negative. Okay, and so then I would need to like do that in my calculator. So here's what we got to be careful of on a problem like this. I need to do square root of 6 over 2, and I need to do negative square root of 6 divided by 2. Okay, so it's not going to be positive and negative the exact same number. So I'm going to have the square root of 6, which is 2.44948, it goes on for a while, but divide by 2, and I get 1.22. Okay, and then I do the same thing, square root of 6, but then I need to make it negative. Oops, I messed up when I punched it in. So negative square root of 6, or the square root of 6 then negative. Then I do divide by 2, and this one I actually do get negative and positive the same like number, but that won't necessarily always happen. Actually, on today's it will. Okay. So none of them will be no solution. Okay, all of them will work out to something. Some of them are fractions. Some of them are the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 problems are decimal answers. They'll be like this. Okay, so the other day we did it where when we worked this all out, it was the square root, maybe it was 9 over 4, and we got 3 over 2, well, there was no square root, and that was just the answer. But today they'll all have a square root that we need to put like the square root answer and the decimal answer. Okay, so it's 12 problems, so it's not very many, and they go fairly quickly. Okay? All right, so that'll cover solving with square roots. And the one thing that I do want you to notice about all the problems is there's no b part. Remember, there's no number that's just 2x or 5x. Or we did yesterday that we're tomorrow with figuring out like, well, what if there is a b part? And there's a few different ways that we can tackle those problems. Okay? All right, so that's it. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.